Just read an article in the Daily Mirror which I think reiterates the challenge that the BBC faces if it wants to remain relevant, if it wants to remain trusted by the public, if it wants to remain our national broadcaster, quite frankly. Um, I'm not going to read out the whole report, but just refer to it. The report's by Ben Glaze and it's from the 27th of September. Campaigners say a £75,000 pay rise for the BBC's Director General rubs salt in the wounds of millions of over 75s who have lost their free TV licences. Tim Davies' salary soared from £450,000 to £525,000, and inflation busting 16.6%. Only those who get pension credit have been eligible for free licenses since August last year. Silver Voices director Dennis Reid, who, like the Mirror, is campaigning to restore the £159 a year lifeline for all over 75, said this astronomical rise for Tim Davie beggars belief. As pensioners struggle this winter, it's a perfect storm of energy prices, benefit cuts, food inflation, and the suspension of the triple lock. Tim Davie will be salting away an extra £1,442 increases per week, 10 times the weekly state pension. Um, I am just flabbergasted that at the BBC for failing to understand just how strongly the public feel about this licence fee issue. Certainly with regards to the over 75s, but I think generally, um, I think it is morally indefensible that the Director General is getting such a hefty pay rise whilst this corporation is trying to justify an increase in the licence fee, something that is widely unpopular, that most people feel is archaic. Um, I just think the BBC is tone deaf and arrogant about this issue. I think it is absolutely repugnant that it's a criminal offence to not pay the licence fee rather than a civic offence. And it has to change. The BBC needs to show some humility, wake up, and realise how controversial this is. I think they're kind of banking on this idea that, oh, well, the public's a little bit annoyed about it, but they'll forgive us because we've got good content. I don't think they really grasp just how angry the public is about this, or rather how frustrated. I'll tone that down a bit. Frustrated a lot of the public is with this. Um, Now, in real terms, the number of people actually going to prison for not paying their TV license is probably very, very low. But no one should be, frankly. Even if they stubbornly refuse to pay the license for years, I still don't think that should be a custodial sentence. Give them a fine, make it a civic offence. But the fact that, the top people in the BBC are going to get even wealthier, to put that in context, that's, by the way, about twice what the Prime Minister makes. I believe the Prime Minister's salary is 250,000. I think it actually is slightly less. So the person running the United Kingdom has a smaller salary than the person running the BBC. Now the BBC is a big corporation. I know it's not going to be a small amount, but I do think BBC executives are tone deaf. Tim Davie has vowed to, confront the issue of bias in his corporation. Well, that's one important issue. But this issue of license fee is another very important issue. And so far, like his predecessors, he has not really demonstrated that he is prepared to take public anger and public concerns seriously on this. I mean, does he not grasp the optics of this? You have a situation where people are being threatened with prison, threatened with a criminal record for not paying the fee, and you can argue they should pay it, but it should not be a criminal offence. Okay, this is not the sort of crime that it's a victimless crime. I mean, I just think it's preposterous, and I don't think the BBC grasp the optics of this, and it does make me angry because I am not anti BBC. I think at its best it can be very good. I think it has some very good content. So the issue for me is not so much the content. People can complain about wokeism, political correctness, and so on. I still think the BBC had some good content. It makes top-notch documentaries, and at its best, it's good. So the issue is not about the content; it's about the optics of the disconnect between the people running the BBC and the public, which is vast. And I don't think they get it. I don't think they get it. So I think the BBC keeps shooting itself in the foot with these sort of moves. I mean, he will no doubt say that he doesn't set his own pay rate. This is always the excuse, but at least he could, as Director General, argue that the license fee shouldn't be increased. Now he's pushing for that. Why? The BBC is just utterly tone deaf on this issue of license fees. I'm going to wrap this up because there's not really much more to say, but if the BBC is dismantled, I believe it will be something like this. You know, if this corporation finally just becomes too out of touch and polarizes the public to such an extent that the tide turns against it, then I think the license fee issue will be one major issue that will have contributed to that. Because time and time again, the BBC, unfortunately, has shown arrogance, it's shown a hugely out of touch attitude. If they really understood public sentiments, they definitely wouldn't be increasing the cost of the license fee. I forget what the precise figure is, but it's a fair amount of money. I think it's 179. I'd need to double check that. But regardless, it doesn't really matter if it's 120 or 150 or 200. It's money, right? A lot of people think this is archaic. The new culture secretary, indeed, has compared it to a Stalinist system. So I think the BBC needs to grasp this. I think they need to grasp that if they are going to survive, they have to understand public sentiment. It's not just about perceptions of bias. Davy is right to look at that. But he also needs to consider this license fee issue. And he's a wealthy man who is now even wealthier at a time when millions of people are, facing great uncertainty. This might actually be like, in the early 2010s, there was significant public anger against bankers getting undeserved bonuses. Well, we're in very uncertain times at the moment. There's a fuel crisis. The economy is still recovering from COVID. There's a cut in universal credit for many people. So a lot of people are struggling. There's rising energy prices. That's a major issue. And yet the BBC has the gall to increase license fee prices. I think that's going to really stoke up public anger, particularly with this news that Davy is getting a £75,000 raise. I mean, a lot of people would never even make £75,000. By the way, that's about just short of what an MP gets in their salary, but that's just his raise. So it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And if he's going to justify his salary, then he also needs to basically face public anger. If he's on question time or something, I hope he faces some heat for this. It's not about jealousy over his salary, it's about the optics of unfairness. That's the issue. If he was getting a huge salary as he is, but it was deemed to be more fair that people were not criminalized for not paying the license fee and the license fee wasn't being raised, particularly for over 75s, then I think the public anger would be quelled. But I think this is going to really do the BBC no favours. And it's unfortunate. I don't want to see the BBC dismantled because I think it's fundamentally, I think it has a lot of good aspects, but I just think that they keep shooting themselves in the foot. I do think there is an arrogance in the BBC. I do think there is a perception that they kind of live in this bubble within the M25 and they don't really understand wider public anger and concerns. I think they have tried to overcome it, but they haven't necessarily taken the right approach. They are tone deaf with the license fee issue. To their credit, Tory backbench MPs have been pushing this. Some will say, it's just all BBC bashing because it's aimed to be a left wing organisation. They're Tory MPs. But frankly, a lot of people feel this way. You can't just say it's a Tory politics. A lot of people feel this way. And I just think the BBC is shooting itself in the foot. So, Mr. Davey, just show some humility. Understand the public is angry about this.